John, it's like a TGIF moment over here, but there's something a little stinky. Do you smell that?
I think I do. I think I can smell it.
Somebody, they're trying to put the stink of the 17th letter of the alphabet onto you, my friend. What's going on with that?
It's a pretty interesting story. It's been an interesting week. And in fact, it's still unfolding in real time as we
Really?
speak. Yeah, I've been getting messages. So we're going to lay this all out for the audience so that they understand what's been going on. But it's been, very, very interesting week. It's going to be a very interesting show. And we're going back to the Las Vegas shooting investigation tonight for a good portion of what we're going to be talking about. There's a couple quick things I want to share with the audience before we get to that. But when we go to Subscribestar and Patreon for both the Crowdsource the Truth patrons and for the I Am John Cullen patrons, and Odyssey for you got three outlets. I've only got two.
Yeah.
So I'm very particular. So I've got Patreon and I got Subscribestar. You're a little looser, but you're younger, so it's okay. So you've got Odyssey and Patreon and Subscribestar. But for our patrons, who are all those people, what we're going to be looking at is a Spaces thing that took place earlier this week, and I've got just a little clip from it.
Twitter Spaces, right?
Twitter Spaces, which is like an audio conference thing, I guess. This was the first one I've ever done. And I was just listening. I wasn't participating because it appears you can't participate unless you're on a smartphone and not on your smartphones. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of an odd thing. I haven't really... The other thing we want to remind people of, John, is for them to get over to the John E. Hoover YouTube channel. We're going to talk a little bit about social engineering on Crowdsource the Truth, taking out Crowdsource the Truth 7. So thanks to everybody who's watching on the John E. Hoover channel. We've got the simulcast going there right now.
So we've got a lot of co-subscribers. So for those of you who are watching over Johnny Hoover, Crowdsource the Truth 7.
We should crowdsource the 7.
Crowdsource the 7. That's a different type of game that we like to play. But Crowdsource the Truth 7, unfortunately, Jason and I had to attend the funeral of the channel. And it was a sad day. So, onward and upward, right?
Yeah. It's obviously not ideal, but we're not going to lament it too badly because, as you said, we have the alternate platforms building up quite well. I have created Crowdsource the Truth 9, and of course, people can always watch our simulcasts on the John Cullen Investigates YouTube channel. But I think it is time for people to start migrating a bit more over to Odyssey and some of these independent platforms that are not so susceptible to social engineering.
Yeah, it's pretty wild stuff. So let's see. Why don't I share with the YouTube audience just a couple quick stories, and then we'll kind of talk a little bit more about the social engineering thing. And then when we get with our patrons, we're going to go pretty deep. We're going to get to listen to some of what took place. So let's see if I can open up my deck and follow along with you. That would be good, right?
Sure.
All right. So first of all, this week, yesterday, there was an asteroid that flew by Earth.
I saw that. I saw a story about that.
Yeah. And if you read these stories, they tell you how close it is. And it was one of the closest ever.
Whoa.
Very, 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 very close to Earth.
But it didn't really affect us, did it? Like weather?
No, they don't. No. These are little things, right? So this is something, the size of a beach ball or something. I didn't look and see how big that this wasn't very big, but not big enough to be a big deal. But the thing is, they recognized it was incoming just about 2 days earlier. And this is a fascinating thing that I want to talk about.
So they didn't know about it at all until 2 days before it came that close?
Correct. And guess what? So here's an aspect of this that I find fascinating and we haven't talked about enough. Elitism.
What do you mean?
So while many of the people in Congress rant and rave about racism, I'm talking about elitism. I'm talking about chapeauphobia or chapeau.
Is that fear of hats?
Yes, or chapeau negrophilia. which is a fear of black hats.
Huh.
So here's the issue. In the world of astronomy, you can be a dentist, and if you spot an astronomical object and you post the data, it's taken, everybody looks at the data, looks at your numbers and goes, whoa, look, we got something here. It doesn't matter who you are. And the guy who found this incoming asteroid 2 days before it passed was an amateur astronomer from Russia.
Was he wearing a black hat and sunglasses and they dismissed him as a result?
Far worse. You know that. Far worse, right? All Russians carry hand grenades. You know that. So the idea here is that in the world of astronomy, an amateur can capture a new event, and it's absolutely considered legitimate. In the world of pandemics and virology, unless you have a PhD from Yale in epidemiology, nobody seems to want to listen to what you have to say. And I find that a bit odd. So in the world of astronomy, this was found by another amateur. And this isn't uncommon. Amateurs often find comets and things of that nature. Yeah. So this was discovered by an amateur. Now, the reason I have this interest in asteroids and near misses of asteroids goes to the next slide. So this was 2023 BU was the name of this one. And the reason I have an interest in this is because back in November of 2020, I broke the story of the closest asteroid to miss the Earth in history ever recorded. And that was an asteroid called 2020 VT4. And I broke that story in the middle of the night, basically. I one of these things where you wake up at 3 a.m.
Yeah.
And you go check NASA, right? You go check JPL, right? You do that, right? You wake up at 2, 3 a.m.
Not
right?
usually.
So when you're my age, you wake up at that time in the morning pretty regularly, and then
you might want to call a doctor.
No, I'm fine. I feel great. And then you go check NASA, right? You say, okay, how are we doing on asteroids today? And I'm like blown away. It's like 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning, and I'm looking at the JPL data. In fact, go to the next slide. I'll show you. I'm looking at the JPL data, and this is the data for the one that just passed us yesterday. So 2023, right? Can you see what it says?
Oh, yeah,
2023.
BU. It went to Boston University.
Something like that. So that just passed yesterday. And if you look at the fourth column over, it tells you the closest distance, the CA distance nominal, that's as close as it got. Okay.
Wow.
And
but it's a much smaller number than all these others. It's very close.
Yes. Okay. So 6,193 miles away. That's how close it got. And it just passed yesterday. Okay. Now, if you go to the next slide.
That's like the distance between New York and New Zealand or something, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not too far, right?
Wow.
Something like Los Angeles to Sydney, something like that. Right? So if you go to this next slide, you'll see something that looks very similar, except the one on top is 2020 VT4. And this is a search of all close approaches in the past that have been recorded by JPL, sorted by distance. So the closest one in history was the one that I broke the story on in November of 2020.
So remind me how you did that. I mean, I don't know if people remember. You do have some mega telescope that we were going to do a show with, but we ran out of time.
No, it has nothing to do with my telescope. It just has to do with I woke up at 2 a.m. and looked at this thing and went.
But aren't they breaking it or
they
tracking
don't report
it?
So this is basically like an automated generated report from an Oracle database, and they've got these automated tracking things that they track this stuff. Yeah, so
and what does it? Cameras, or how do they track it?
So there's a whole bunch, and they're building one in Chile that's amazing, right? So there's all kinds of stuff
collapsed that they had the James Bond movie about.
That's the radio telescope. I'm talking about telescope projects that are specifically for detecting asteroids. And Shep has been talking about this the whole time, right? He's the one who introduced us to all this. So again, I can't talk.
The funniest thing, if people didn't see that, they have to go back. We had some show that was supposed to be about helicopters, and he just comes on talking about Planet X, and it's like, okay, I guess this is the show.
It was pretty wild, and it turns out Shepard Ambellis basically, in my opinion, has one of the biggest breaks of a cover-up of the 20th or 21st century.
The field hospitals, you mean?
Yeah. I mean, he nailed it. He didn't know exactly which one of these rocks it was. I figured that one out, but he's close enough for horseshoes and hand grenades, right? I mean, that's
close
good
enough for asteroids.
Yeah. I was just like, dude, it was this one. It was this one right here. That's all I did.
Wow.
That's all I did. So, but the point is, this one that came through in November, nobody was expecting that. And we didn't know it was coming. It gets recorded by the system automatically. I just happened to look that night, and I got the video out by 6 a.m. New York time. It was up. So, and I said, oh, here we go. And nobody had reported it yet. So,
wow. Well, congratulations. And then, frankly, that's the scariest part, that they're like, oh, yeah, we just found out about this 2 days ago.
Well, yeah, exactly. You don't know when they're coming. So if anybody wants to invite the people from NASA Jet Propulsion Laboratory onto the show to be a guest and talk to us,
that's a good idea.
These little doodads that are flying around, and maybe, the one in Akure, Nigeria, we can talk about that one, and we can talk about our visit to Barringer Crater and the similarities that we saw. We could invite these people to come on the show. So if anybody in the audience wants to reach out to these media contacts, by all means, feel free. The next slide here, I guess this has also been in the news a lot this week, which is, I guess Joe keeps bringing stuff home and chucking it behind the Corvette. It's like,
he's like, I forgot the password. It's in the document in your hands, Mr. President. Oh, yeah.
So, right. Right. Okay. So I'm sure this has been beat to death enough this week, and we're going to see how all this plays out. But again, I think we can just sum this up with one word, right? Karma, right? So karma is what we're seeing there. All right, on the next slide, now we're going to start to get into sort of what happened this week. So I had an opportunity to meet somebody who's a really interesting guy, a guy named Dustin Stockton, and I didn't know Dustin until he posted something on the next screen. So if you go to the next slide, so he posted this Twitter Spaces thing, which is like, we're going to have this big conference call thing and what have you. And it was about the Las Vegas shooting. And it's this Las Vegas Route 91 massacre. And he's got Mindy Robinson and Matt Couch and Laura Loomer. And I'm like, okay, those are the three experts. I mean, I know Laura worked pretty hard on this thing, right? I know she spent a lot of time there and drove Lombardo crazy. I know you went with her to
That's actually where I met Laura, was at the police station in Vegas.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, at the press conference. They barred us all from the press conference, and then I was just sort of hanging out with Laura and Jake, and went to the helicopter place.
And I remember that you and Laura went to see Foldenberg, the coroner.
Oh, Fudenberg, yeah.
Is it Fudenberg or Foldenberg?
I'm pretty sure his name is Fudenberg. It was a weird name. That dude, I had been there first, and then Laura made contact with people who were actually like somehow working there, or I think it's Fudenberg. He's the coroner.
I think it's Foldenberg. I'm betting you $1, like in trading places.
Las Vegas.
Bet you $1. I say it's Foldenberg.
Clark County Officer of the Coroner.
Fulden Berg is my prediction.
John. But what happened was I went there first, and the woman answered the door, and it was like a Monty Python movie. Former coroner Fudenberg claimed degrees. Oh, is this dude lying? Dude, he's such a liar. I could tell. This is one of those times where I don't often say this, but I looked in this dude's face and I knew he was lying. Former coroner claimed iffy degrees. No, wait. Get rid of that ad blocker. We got to read this. Did outside work on taxpayer time. He's so sketch. Former Clark County Coroner John Fudenberg.
All right, I owe you $1.
I could take that $1 in nickels. Claimed university degrees from a discredited diploma mill. Oh yeah, this guy is sketchy as hell.
Nice. All right.
But
Well, I
basically,
remember you and
the
Laura
woman was
going to
like,
visit this guy,
so
and
here's
him
how it
giving
went.
you, he gave
Here's
you
how it
this
went.
stink eye.
Well, I went there and I
Yeah.
was just like, oh, what's going on at the coroner? And this woman came to the door and she's like, we're closed. And I was like, what do you mean you're closed? We're not open. And I was like, how could you be closed? And she's like, go away. And I was like, that was weird. So then I went back like a week later and Laura was like there in the parking lot and we ran into each other and we're just like, okay, let's do this. And we did a live stream. So I was like, shooting Laura outside the place and she's like, we're here standing outside. And then Fudenberg opened the door. Like he's watching Crowdsource the Truth and saw us go live. He had to be.
Pretty wild. That's
and
pretty
then
wild.
we went in and he wouldn't let us record, but he was just, I've
remember the
never
footage.
looked in the eyes of somebody who I thought, this guy wants to murder me right now.
I remember the footage, man. I remember. You guys had umbrellas. I remember that.
Right. It was raining.
Yeah, I remember this. All right, so let's go back to the slides. Let me show the audience kind of what happened here.
I love how sketchy that guy is.
So Dustin Stockton sets up this conference call thing. He's got Matt Couch, Laura Loomer, and Mindy Robinson. Now, of the three, I know Laura, but I've never, met Mindy or anything. I've never met Matt. But back in the day, a long time ago, when I was on Twitter under my original I Am John Cullen, I think I used to tweet my John Cullen content and copy people like I do now, right? You put everybody's @ thing in your tweet. And I think I used to copy Matt Couch on a lot of my stuff, and I never heard anything from him. So he obviously wasn't interested.
Too busy drinking Slurpees.
I don't know. So they had this thing, and I see this thing scheduled. I'm kind of like, how come I'm not invited to that? That's kind of odd, right? Particularly since Mindy's documentary uses so much of my material.
Yeah, and everybody called her out for it.
Well, so that's kind of the thing. So I kind of made a post or something saying, surprised I'm not invited or something like that. And Dustin had no idea who I was. So this was kind of the fascinating thing. So Dustin Stockton has no idea who John Cullen is. And John Cullen has no idea who Dustin Stockton is. I don't know who the guy is. But he's setting up a party to talk about the Vegas shooting and a whole bunch of people there, and I'm not invited to the dinner party. So it's kind of odd. So you know me, I don't care, right? I have no social graces whatsoever, right? I'm not here to make friends, right? You know that. So I say a thing or two. And if we go to the next slide, you'll see sort of like one of the dynamics. So people start chiming in on Twitter and start saying things like, you really should ask I Am John Cullen to host, or you're wasting your time.
Wow.
And then I got, the nasty comes out, right? So then, so Mindy wrote out, and why don't you read it? Because I don't want to say these things.
Well, she says, do you think I care that he sent his angry minions after me because he got mad that he ignored my request to help me with my documentary? Oh, that's the first time I've actually seen her say she actually requested your help. John Cullen is a hack, and he's talking crap about me for no reason. So that I can say that. So that I can say that. I don't know if that makes much sense. I mean, you were kind of a little bit conciliatory at one point, saying maybe she did contact you. There was a moment where there could have been an apology or whatever, but then you say, sounds like a pretty big misunderstanding to me. I loved your film. And then what did she say to that?
Nothing.
She didn't respond to that?
No.
But you didn't send angry minions. It's like you're not in a room like the guy from Despicable Me, like, we're going to steal the mini Eiffel Tower. Yay! No minions. You're not sending minions.
Yeah, this isn't Project Veritas, right?
Does he have minions?
Of course, you've seen his operation. He's got that huge office in Mamaroneck or something.
They did a great video with Pfizer there. Here you could have your minions.
It would be nice. It would be nice. All right, maybe next year.
So, but okay.
Right.
Back to
so basically, she's accusing this person who's saying that I should be involved in the conversation of being a minion, and says what does she say? She says that I'm a hack.
That's crazy. She used all your stuff. If you're a hack, why would she use your research in her movie? She could say you're a jerk. She'd have kind of legitimate reason for that. You've been a little rude to her, but she was a bitch.
So this whole thing about me ignoring her request, I don't have an email from Mindy Robinson. There is no email. It's like, I don't have an email from her. Right. So, and she could have reached out to you. She could have sent me a Twitter message and say,
I never heard of her until you told me about it.
Or Here, she could have commented on any one of my videos and
Right.
just said, hey, John, it's Mindy. I'd love to get together with you and, work on something. She never did that.
I have a strong feeling getting ignored is not a big problem for this woman. Like,
well,
historically.
What they say, right? A woman's scorn, hell hath no fury greater than a woman's scorn, right? Something like that, right? Hell hath no
But I'm
fury
saying
greater than a
she's
woman's scorn.
generally, I think a lot of people are paying attention to her.
Yeah, well, obviously, she's very angry at me. Now, the thing is, she has so much content in that documentary that's from my channel. You'd think she'd love to collaborate. It's like, I'm eager to collaborate with her. Why would I don't get it. So I said, it sounds like a big misunderstanding to me. I thought your movie was great, right? So the next slide is the same thing. Let's jump ahead.
But you said you invited Mindy to come on my show and look at video clips together. I think her documentary is excellent, but she seems to have a lot of questions and make just a few small mistakes. You're being actually much nicer, first of all, than you were previously, and second of all, than you usually are on Twitter. So you are.
Oh,
this is what I mean. There was a
no,
while.
I don't stay nice. Yeah, I don't stay nice much.
Right.
Because she says, because I said she's got questions. I don't have any questions. I've got answers. I have the prima facie evidence, right? And then her retort is, you ignored me when I preemptively reached out.
That's a weird...
Preemptively. That's a strange choice of words. Preemptive strike. Was this a preemptive strike? She was going on the offensive.
Yeah. That's an interesting choice
I don't have any emails from Mindy Robinson. There's no emails at I am John Cullen or I am Johnny Hoover. Neither. So what can I tell you? All right. Well, so then she doesn't drop it. And she continues to tell more people who are suggesting.
This is from today?
No, this is from 2 days ago when this thing took place Tuesday night. So she continues to put things out, telling people that I'm putting out bad information and leaving it up for clicks. Wow. I've taken down like 30 videos where I made a mistake. Right? Where if I think a helicopter's a jet or a jet's a helicopter, I took the video down. So,
and also, by the way, how many clicks are you getting on these 5-year-old videos? Like, you're leaving them up for clicks. That's ridiculous.
And what do clicks do for me? I don't. My stuff isn't monetized. I don't get clicks. Clicks don't count. Right. I don't get a cookie. I don't get a plaque.
No, we're focused on new shows and the sponsored exclusive segment that's coming up actually in just 8 minutes on subscribestar.com/IamJohnCullen, patreon.com/IamJohnCullen, and Subscribestar and Patreon/crowdsourcethetruth. Click that.
So you guys get the gist. So basically, she's talking trash about me. Jump ahead to the slide where you see 9 different boxes or 9 different people.
Oh yeah.
So this was the Spaces thing. So what I did was I reached out to Dustin and I said, why don't you and I get together before you do the Spaces thing, and I'll show you some stuff, because I have been kind of, talking trash here. Let me show you kind of some of my work and we can talk about it. So he and I recorded a podcast. I guess it was Monday, and I put that up on YouTube. And it's got over 3,000 views now on the Johnny Hoover channel. And he was fascinated. And so I'm describing to him sort of, what kind of happened. But there's so many aspects of it that still he doesn't know, that they didn't talk about in the Spaces thing. And that's what we're going to talk about tonight. But if you go back to that picture of the Spaces, or if you want to show everybody.
I was just going to look at the John E. Hoover channel.
Yeah, to show everybody Johnny Hoover, they can see this interview with Dustin Stockton. And hopefully this is just the first. I'd like to do a couple more with him and show him a little bit more detail, because he was fascinated by it. Real smart guy. He gets it very quickly. It's not like...
But see, now wait a minute. Look at how many more views. It's obviously he's popular and got a lot of followers, but that's interesting to see how suppressed so much of the stuff we've been doing lately has been. I mean, we used to get 10,000... 20,000. I mean, look at this video from last week, hasn't even hit 1,000, talking about artificial intelligence. It seems like people are interested in that. We're struggling to get 1,000 views on these videos these days.
Well, the punchline here, gang, and for those of you who are not subscribed yet to Patreon or Subscribestar and are contemplating it, was go back to the 9 people on the call. So of the 9 people on the call, one of the people on the call was Austin Steinbart. And for those of you who know who Austin Steinbart is, you're probably already giggling. And for those of you who don't know who Austin Steinbart is, he's the guy who came out and said, I am Q.
Hmm.
And this
And no
is my
evidence,
house.
obviously.
And this is my house. And I'm the guy kind of behind the whole QAnon phenomenon. And so he's on the call, and he's the one who describes the Saudi Arabian angle of the Las Vegas shooting.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, what? They call him Mini Q. The people in the QAnon world who follow Q call him Mini Q. So the
Do people still
idea,
follow that?
I don't know, but the idea that Mini Q is telling the Saudi aspect of it's like, where does he come from with this?
Right.
Coming out of left field. So we're going to take a much closer look at that and say, what is going on here? What is this all about?
See, and I this whole time thought that Mini Q was the guy in the fur bikini and the David Lee Roth makeup. Who somebody's made an awesome action figure out of that guy.
That is cool. That is cool.
But John, we're out of time. We're going to have to continue the conversation on the sponsor exclusive segment, which is starting in less than 5 minutes. People can join us on subscribestar.com and patreon.com/IamJohnCullen. Subscribestar and patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth. And as John pointed out, odyssey.com, my new favorite, super hated by social engineers. So that must mean it's got some kind of special sauce on it. So join us over there on one of those platforms. We'll see everybody in just a few minutes. Thanks for tuning in, everybody.